Welcome to Memphis. This city has it all: music, food, sports, history. You may know it best as the home of the blues and the birthplace of rock and roll, but it's also steeped in the deep history of the civil rights movement. Today, Memphis is a vibrant city with one of the biggest majority-minority populations in the country. It also has become a hub for Black tech talent and entrepreneurs. Over the next hour, we're going to hear from some of the top business, political, and entertainment leaders in Memphis about how they're propelling the city forward. But first, we're starting at the site that's forever etched in the country's collective memory, the Lorraine Motel. It's now the site of the National Civil Rights Museum. Museum Director Russell Wigginton helps us remember its history.
The history of this country, it does not fit neatly in a box. It's complicated, it's complex, it's uncomfortable, but it's also inspirational. The National Civil Rights Museum is a destination for everyone in this country and throughout the world to understand, appreciate, and be inspired by the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all of the participants and all of the people who sacrificed during and on behalf of civil rights and social justice in our country.
This museum highlights everyday people who were committed into standing up against discrimination in the United States.
Located in Memphis, the capital of the Delta, the National Civil Rights Museum is a transformative place because it's where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. took his last breath.
On Wednesday, April 3rd, 1968, Dr. King steps outside of the balcony of room 306 and a shot rang out, and he was mortally wounded at the age of 39.
Every day I walk on this property, I look up at room 306, and I'm reminded that the world changed on April 4th, 1968, at that very spot.
I like to think that the museum's birth of a tragedy was able to transform into something good. The museum tells the story of the Black freedom struggle beginning in the 1600s, where enslaved Africans were kidnapped and brought to the United States.
For 250 years, we were committed to the institution of slavery in this country. We have not had 250 years since emancipation yet. So we're still on a journey. We always have to remember that the institution of slavery was the foundation from which the civil rights era came about.
In 1960, 4 African-American college students sat down at a lunch counter just like this one. Sit-ins were the first time where young African-Americans got involved in the modern civil rights movement. On Wednesday, August 28th, 1963, 250,000 Americans gathered here at the Lincoln Memorial at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. This was one of the highest moments in the modern civil rights movement and continues today to be one of the most important events that occurred in the nation's 20th century.
There's an old saying that says, history repeats itself. The most vivid one is the comparison between George Floyd and Emmett Till. Many years removed, it was a national wake-up call that we have a challenge that we have to deal with.
Just some of the same things are being recycled. We're seeing instances of discrimination within the right to vote, things within education and equity, how children were denied the right to basic and free education because of the color of their skin.
And so we have to establish a framework by which we're able to meet each other from different angles and start having common language and collective conversations about how we move forward together.
So many people had their hand in participating in this struggle for civil and human rights, and that this museum belongs to the public. It's for Memphis, it's for the grassroots organizers, it's for the women who walked in Montgomery, it's for those sit-in activists, it's for the victims of martyrs who never received any justice. This is America's museum because this is America's story.
In 2019, we had approximately 325,000 people visit this museum. I have a personal goal that by 2025, that figure reaches 500,000. And when people can come together and experience and witness and observe what has happened in our country, they leave with an intersection of head and heart that could and should serve as inspiration to be the best citizens that they can be.
Hey, thanks for watching Bloomberg Quicktake Now. Subscribe to our channel to see the biggest stories the moment they happen from around the world. And tune in to our 24/7 live stream for global news coverage, documentaries, interviews, deep dives, and shows on the stories that you care most about.